Hey there, Evie here. Welcome back to the channel. This is the Minolta HiMatic AF-2. In this video, I'm going to be talking about this camera, talking a little bit about the history of the camera, talking to you about the body of the camera, talking to you about the shooting experience with the camera, and at the end of the video, I'm going to be telling you if I'm going to be keeping this camera or if I'm going to be passing it on to somebody else who's going to make better use of it. Let's dive right into this one. Based on the research that I did, it was suggested that this Minolta HiMatic AF-2 was one of the first viewfinder cameras for 35mm film with an active infrared autofocus when it was first launched in 1981. This camera is an interesting one because it's an autofocus and auto exposure camera, but it has a manual film advance, a manual film rewind, and you have to manually set the ISO value. When it comes to metering, this camera has a CDS sensor governed auto exposure with a range of EV6 to 17 and an ISO range of 25 to 400. I don't know why these cameras don't necessarily go over 400. There's a couple of them that just stop at 400. I know back in the day they made films that were 800, 1600, even 3200, but for some reason, most of these cameras only go up to 400. I guess for the consumers, they weren't necessarily shooting anything over 400, so that's why it stops at 400. I don't know. This camera only goes up to 400 ISO. Now let's dive right into the body of this camera. I'm going to be showing you what each of these buttons do, what they mean. I'm also going to be showing you how to load film into the camera. So let's dive right into it. This is the Minolta HiMatic AF-2, 35mm point and shoot style camera. We're going to be going over all the buttons and what everything does on this camera. Let's start right here at the top. Not too much going on here. You have the sign here that says HiMatic AF-2. Over here you have your film advance lever. You have your frame counter window. You have your shutter release button. You have your film rewind knob that helps you rewind the film. On the front of the camera, you have the Minolta sign, symbol, logo. This is one of the first cameras to have this new sunrise sort of Minolta logo. You have your ISO changer, allows you to change the ISO over here. On the top here, you have your ISO window that shows you what the ISO is on this camera. This particular version goes up to 400 and comes all the way down to 25. Over here, you have your CDS cell. This is what allows the camera to set the aperture and set the shutter speed. So this camera is an automatic camera that sets the shutter speed and the aperture for you. All you have to do is just set the ISO value based on what you want to shoot. This is a 38mm f2.8 lens. And over here you have the self timer. Pull this down. Once you pull this down, press that. This stays down at the top. It does its thing. And there you go. On top of the lens, you have these two windows right here. Those are your autofocus windows that allows the camera to approximate the distance between the camera and the subject you're taking the picture of. Over here is called, in the middle of these two autofocus windows is your piezoelectric oscillator that gives you the audible warning on this camera, which we'll get to in a little bit. Over here is the button, the knob that allows the flash to pop up. And once the flash is ready, we'll go to the back now. When the flash is ready to go, this turns green in the back. So this is the back of the camera. So let me push this down. Back of the camera, this is your flash warning button, lever, window that allows you to know when the flash is ready to go. Over here is your viewfinder. Inside of the viewfinder, you'll be able to see a person and a mountain. That just allows you to know what the camera is going to be focusing on. Another interesting thing about this camera is that it has two sort of beep functions. So when it goes beep, 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 that means that whatever you're focusing on is out of focus or it's out of flash range. At this point, it's making the beep, beep, beep sound, mostly because whatever it's trying to focus on is out of focus and it doesn't necessarily know what to focus on. If I turn it this way, that long beep sound tells you that you need to deploy the flash. So if I put the flash on, the flash takes about 5 to 7 seconds to come on. If I do this, you don't hear the sound. Put the flash down, right? The camera just lets you know, hey, you need a flash to take that shot. Over here is your film window. It just lets you know once your film is properly loaded in, and also what it starts on the right and goes all the way back to the left, also letting you know when your film is almost done. At the bottom of the camera, we have a tripod mount. We have, this is your film rewind button. So once you press this button, it releases the film and allows you to rewind the film. On this side, you have your battery compartment. This camera only needs 2 AA batteries to function, and that's where you put your batteries in. If you're ever having problems with your camera and it's not working, all you need is earbud cleaner thingy and also some isopropyl alcohol. Just clean the contacts a little bit and it'll allow the camera to start working properly. In order to open the back of the camera, all you have to do is just lift this film rewind knob, pull it up, and the back pops out. Over here, I'm going to be showing you how to put film into the camera in a little bit, but over here, all you have to do is just put your film in here. This is where your film goes in. This is where you put the other end of the film into. Over here, you have the back plate, and this is the lens of the camera. Let me just take a shot so you can see it. There you go. That's everything you need to know about this Minolta HiMatic AF-2. So here's how you load film into the Minolta HiMatic AF-2. First thing you want to do is pull up this film rewind lever. There's a button over here. Pull that out, the back pops open. Here is where you input the film on the left side. You pull that out, put that in there, push this top part down. You need to give your film a little bit of a slack just so it can like go right in there. Over right here, I have some Kodak 250D. Once you give it a little bit of slack, and then you have that tucked right in here, there's a little sign right here that shows you how to tuck that in. But once that in there, you just have to pull this forward. As you can see, mine is not properly in there, so it's not taking. So you just take that out, push that in there a little bit more, make sure it's all the way tight in there. Try again. There you go. Now you can see that that's in there, it's winding. Then you close the back. On this camera, you have to advance it. So if you see over here, you see it's on S. You have to advance it 1, and as you're advancing, you see this part also spin. 1, 2, 3, and there you go. Once you advance it 3 times and it sticks, then you know your camera is ready to go. And also on the back of the camera, before this wasn't here, now you can see that it shows you that your film is properly loaded, and it goes all the way from right to left to show you that your film is done as well too. And there you go. That's how you properly load the Minolta HiMatic AF-2, and you're ready to shoot. When it comes to actually using this camera is a breeze to use. Originally this week when I had it with me, I only intended to shoot 1 roll with it, but I ended up shooting 6 rolls. It just went by. It was a breeze to shoot with. I had it up here, I had it down here, I had it to the side, I had the flash on. It was a great camera to use, and I thoroughly enjoyed using it. It fits in your pocket, it sits in your hand, and it's a great experience. Actually, today we have really nice weather outside, and I really wanted to take you out and show you what the shooting experience is like shooting with this camera. So yeah, let's head outside and let's take some shots, and I'll show you some of the results. I'm out here at this basketball court that's not too far from my house. This is one of the locations I've really been liking a lot recently. With the clouds rolling in, I decided to load in some black and white film into the Minolta AF-2. Not quite sure if the weather's gonna stay the same. I'm gonna walk around and take some shots of some scenes just so you can see how this camera reacts in this particular situation. I don't know if you can see this, but it did start to snow a little bit. I have this shot here of this Dollarama sign and that cart right here next to this garbage can. I don't know if it's gonna look good or not, but let's see. Let's take the shot. I just took the last shot on this roll of HP5. I really like the shooting experience when it comes to using this camera. It's like the film just goes by really quick. And if there's one thing about a camera that you want it to feel good in your hands. You want it to feel good to shoot. And this camera feels good to shoot. I'm gonna head to the grocery store, grab some groceries, and I'm gonna head home and develop this roll of film. You've probably already seen all the shots by now, but I haven't. I'm gonna develop these and give you some of my final thoughts when it comes to shooting with the Minolta AF-2 and see if, actually right now, I don't know if I'm gonna keep this camera or not. It really depends on what these shots look like. I want to be able to depend on my camera to give me the shots that I need. And if I can't depend on this camera to give me the shots that I see and need, I'm gonna sell it. But for now, I'm just gonna wait and see the results that I get. There's somebody in the car next to me staring at me, recording myself, but I'm gonna head home right now and get these shots. And yeah, stay tuned. I developed this roll using Rodinol at 1+50 dilution, using Ilford Stop and Ilford Fixer throughout the process. As part of my process, I also use distilled water as well as wetting agent, wetting solution, as well as a squeegee to help reduce any streaks of water, as well as reduce any dust or anything that tend to stick to images. When it comes to the images that I got out of this camera, to be honest, I am not 100% pleased with it. With my images, I usually like a little bit of overexposure, and on this camera, I did actually set it to shoot at 320 or just between 200 and 400 in order to give it a little bit of overexposure. On other cameras, this would allow me to get a lot more shadow detail, but on this camera, I didn't get that much shadow detail. I usually like my images a little bit lifted. And this was the same issue I had with the other rolls that I shot on this camera. The blacks were too deep, the images were a little bit too grainy for my liking. The images are nice, the images came out perfectly, the autofocus didn't miss, everything was in good condition apart from the final product. I found that I did have to spend a little bit more time in post-production making it look the way I like it to look, and I wasn't too pleased with the image right out of camera. But again, images are fine, camera is fine. I'm not quite sure if it's a problem with my particular light meter, but I did enjoy the images that I got from this camera. My final thoughts on this camera is that this is a nice camera to have with you at all times. It sits in your hand, fits in your pocket. The autofocus is good. I didn't miss focus anytime. It's a nice camera. It's a nice camera to have with you for the price that I got it for. It's a beautiful camera. I can't complain about the results that I got from it. A little disappointed in the exposure settings and the photos that came out of the camera, but with a little bit of overexposure, I feel like I can fix that problem. Now, will I be keeping this camera? I don't think so. I prefer more of a manual experience when it comes to focusing, mostly because I shoot street photography. But for folks who just want something that they can set and forget, this camera is amazing for you. Now, I would keep this camera, but it would just sit on the shelf and gather dust. So I want to pass it on to someone who's going to make good use of it. I'm not selling this camera because the images are bad. I'm not selling it because it wasn't a good shooting experience. I'm just selling it because I have other cameras that will give me a better value for the type of photos I like to take. So I'm going to be passing this on to somebody who wants it. If you do want it, let me know in the comment section down below, and then we can talk about price. We can talk about getting it to you. But if you're watching this video a year or two from now, it's probably gone. And that brings me to the end of this one. If you want to see more of the photos that I took from it, check out the description under the like button. I'm going to be posting on my blog, FilmStockReel.com, talking a little bit more about this camera in that blog post. Until next time, make sure you stay safe. Make sure you do the things actually. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, as this goes a long way to making sure I produce more content like this. Until next time, make sure you stay safe. Make sure you film. and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.